Hello and welcome to the show that your parents, your teachers, and your sleep don't want you to hear, the HeliosBlog. Today, HasanAbi hates Dave Chappelle. Let's get into it.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
Now, Dave Chappelle was my goat. Loved a lot of his comedy and his humor. And yet, for the past, 5-6 years now, he has not stopped trying to tackle big trans. His latest special is not as bad as some of his other recent specials, I mean. Obviously, Killing Him Softly clears everything that he's ever done in the past 6 years. However, at least he's like getting marginally better at making jokes and not simply just saying trans people are awful and demons. Like, at least he's moved beyond doing attack helicopter memes. However, he hasn't moved far beyond it. At least he's trying to make a joke now, instead of just like repeating something that you hear from Steven Crowder. But even then,
Disaster. Yep. Comedians are not allowed to say jokes. That's, cancel them.
it still falls short.
Leftist crap.
Of what his normal material looks like. Specifically, his bit about Norm Macdonald is what I want to talk about.
Go. There it is.
So that's a joke. It's crafted as a joke. It's got the structure of a joke. Dave Chappelle is a goat of comedy after all.
And he said, make me feel. He didn't say how they are, which is even couched. It's not even... But what is wrong with you, Hasan?
So obviously, it's still, like, at least it's not like what we just showed you earlier about, like, Israeli attempts at comedy and humor. At least it has the crafting of the making of a joke. However, it's very lowest common denominator because the punchline still is trans people are weird and gross and they're faking it. And
that's not what? That's not what he said. You have to listen to the words that he said. He said, that's how Transformers make me feel. Which doesn't actually say anything, because feelings are not facts. So he didn't actually say anything bad. If anything, all he said was something that hurts him. That's it. He said something negative about himself. That's not what he said, Hasan.
You know, I'm sick and tired of acting like they're not. The punchline in and of itself for this massive crafted story from a profoundly successful storyteller is still just a really shit lowest common denominator meme. You're saying it can only be funny if it's from someone that empathizes? No, I'm not saying...
I actually disagree, Hasan. You're totally wrong about your indictment of Dave. You're just wrong.
I'm saying that you can only be funny if you empathize with said group. I'm saying that empathy oftentimes helps in developing a better understanding of the group that you are joking about. Because if you don't understand the group that you're joking about, you're just simply looking at it from the outside and going, aren't they weird? They're just weird. That's the difference. That structure that he engaged in from top to bottom, Norm Macdonald to Jim Carrey to Andy Kaufman, all of that has the makings of a decent joke. It has the structure, it has the writing, everything is sound. The punchline, however, is soft. It's predictable.
Disagree. Wrong. You're just... Again, Hasan is just a shill for the left, so he has to attack, right, this concept, because he can't be seen as liking a joke about feelings about this topic. No. He can't be seen doing that. He would be an awful person, and his audience would leave, his virtue signaling garbage audience.
And it's soft. You built it up. It's supposed to be the best part of it. The rule of threes, right? If the last piece of that joke falls flat, then you kind of crafted that for no reason. Now, what is really interesting about this in particular with Norm Macdonald is that he invokes Norm Macdonald's name, which is quite odd when he's making a joke about trans people being fake and phony and being weird and gross. Because Norm Macdonald himself was very much alive and doing comedy at a time when
He didn't say that, Hasan.
we're talking about trans identity in public, right? It was a part of the subject matter. And Norm Macdonald was interviewed. This is a great bit from said interview of Norm Macdonald that I'm going to read now. Terrible tribute to Norm, says Vincent, who touched on this exact type of joke in an interview. I think the ambivalence had more to do with jokes you've made about transgender people. Now remember, a lot of people who post Norm Macdonald on Twitter, Norm Avatar Twitter accounts are oftentimes the dumbest right-wingers you've ever seen, and plenty of people will just go, you just don't get it. Norm Macdonald was a super reactionary guy. Now, just like with every artist from every different industry, you're not going to like all their work. Norm Macdonald has a lot of hits, some misses, in my opinion. Doesn't really matter, right? But here's what he had to say about a joke that he had that he cut out of his special. Yeah, the other thing was a joke about Caitlyn Jenner, which, as a matter of fact, was a joke I deliberately left out of the Netflix special, Norm says. It wasn't much of a joke, really, and it's weird when you have to explain jokes that aren't that funny. The joke was about how everyone was saying Caitlyn Jenner is beautiful, but she's not really beautiful. In that joke, I went to great lengths to say you should love Caitlyn Jenner and accept her, but you don't have to pretend she's beautiful. There's no reason to do that. That was the entire point of the joke, he says, which is still a better joke than anything that Dave Chappelle has crafted about trans people. Like, the idea is like there's affirming trans identity and saying that trans women are women, and then there is the notion of taking it one step further. One is normal and perfectly valid. The other is like supporting delusion, kind of like
again, like my opinion on this is like, anyway, disaster. There's biological reality, and then there's virtue signaling leftist stuff. We all know where this falls into.
like that. Now,
Aren't I such a good person? Won't you agree that I'm a great person? Look, I said not only is she strong and independent, but she's beautiful, guys. Don't you now agree that I'm a great person? I'm so good. I support everyone and every choice. Disaster.
having said that, he still considered that to be not a good enough joke. He said it was pretty weak. That was the entire point of the joke. It was pretty weak. So I won't do those jokes anymore, which is fine, because the reason I didn't do the joke on the special is because I came to an understanding that other people came to much sooner than I did. Which is what the interviewer asks. He says, which is that a lot of people are idiots. You don't want to have a joke be misunderstood and then someone goes and beats up a trans person. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make jokes about trans people at all. I myself make jokes about trans people all the time. The difference is Norm in this regard was saying, at least that, like, or was recognizing that he didn't fully grasp the concept, but he did grasp the secondary impact of his words, that it plays a role in normalizing transphobic sentiment. And because he didn't have a good enough joke about a trans woman in that regard, he just dropped it because he thought, why do this? I don't understand this attitude towards comedy, that comedy should be scrutinized exclusively on how funny it is. Surely there can be funny jokes that we should...
Yeah. We should, exactly. We should denounce whatever we determine is harmful. You can't say certain things because it's harmful. That's not free speech then. That is called suppression of language.
Still denounced because they're harmful? My friend, that's precisely what I'm saying. A lot of people tune out whenever I talk about Dave Chappelle or comedy in general, but I am the #1 defender of comedy in general, and I will duke it out with
No, you're not.
my chat on a regular basis, and I will take it to the most neurodivergent lengths to describe to you sentence crafting, joke crafting, how to write a joke, and why something is funny, or what the main intention is. So when I'm actually criticizing Dave Chappelle, I'm not criticizing him from...
Also, when he said neurodivergent, notice that he was avoiding the word autist because, he's got to be as virtue signaling, as left as possible, as accepting, as woke as possible.
the perspective of like, oh, he's transphobic and I'm triggered. Oh, it makes me so mad. I, after all, am a cisgender dude. I'm a white guy.
Oh, there it is. There's the wokey stuff. Yup, there it is.
A cishet
The religion just came out.
white guy. None of that impacts me directly.
You're a heavily religious guy. It's just your religion is womanist wokeism.
Like, I can hear someone be transphobic and recognize the harm in that, but it's not directly harming me. It's not affecting me personally. I have the capacity
Yes, it is.
to hear it and go, yeah,
It's affecting you personally because when you distribute this information to an audience of 1 million people, then the 1 million people become brainwashed to your idiotic ideas.
that's transphobic. When I criticize Dave Chappelle, it's not from the framework that he is transphobic. He is. We all understand.
Yup.
There's no reason to defend it. I don't know why some people try to. It's like, who are you trying to appeal to? Liberals? Do you care? Do you care about liberals like being like, no, Dave Chappelle has to be perceived as funny. You're not funny though, Hasan. I'm not. I'm not a chicken, but I know how to make an egg. Mean ass scrambled egg. I'm not a comedian. I'm an appreciator of comedy. And I am a big fan of Dave Chappelle. What I'm trying to say is, as a big fan of Dave Chappelle, when I criticize Dave Chappelle, it's not on the basis of like, oh, he's being so rude. It's on the basis that it's hacky. And I think that's the worst thing you can do as a comedian. You're a football player.
I disagree. You're wrong. Again, everything that Hasan says is for the NPC. Just see my video on HasanAbi as an NPC. Like, I pegged him from my first impression. Just NPC.
Player and you beat your wife in an elevator, if you can run real fast, play football real good, people are going to overlook even the criminal things that you do. Same goes for comedy. You're an artist. You're a comedic talent. You're going to be able to get away with a lot of awful stuff that you do in your real world life and maybe even in your stand-up specials. However, the worst thing you can do as a comedian is no longer be funny. And
Again, in your opinion, but your opinion is heavily tainted. It's colored poorly, I should say, by your religion. Your womanist, wokist religion.
the easiest way to no longer be funny is by looking for applause rather than laughter. And when you go for the lowest common denominator, bottom of the barrel, hacky bits, saying, don't we all feel like trans people are just weird and gross? That's what you're doing. You're looking for applause. And
that's not what he said.
I expect more from my former GOAT. Wait, what? My biggest criticisms I have of you on comedy is that you, like a lot of us, have a limited lexicon. If you think the TED Talk style Hannah Gadsby started with her and not Carlin, Poundstone, Kinnison, among other greats, I would implore you to look more at comedy. No. George Carlin or Poundstone, I'm unfamiliar with, or Kinnison doing TED Talk style is incorrect. It's just not the same. George Carlin was not seeking out applause. You can't go for applause-seeking bits in a broader American population if you're tackling an issue from a leftist framework regardless. Because applause-seeking oftentimes has to be done within a liberal framework or a reactionary framework. Nanette being the liberal example and Dave Chappelle's trans stuff being a reactionary example. Now, what I mean by that is this.
Wait, what? So one side is liberal and one side is reactionary? You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, right, because Hasan is a leftist shill, I forgot. So it's going to be a reactionary thing to the left. Again, just, you know, the best word to describe Hasan, other than NPC, would be zealot. He's a zealot for womanist, wokist concepts. He's like this big, strong guy that is a useful idiot. A zealot.
Applause requires the audience to recognize the pre-established norms. George Carlin, when talking about like the Israelis are called commandos and the Palestinians are called terrorists, that in and of itself is not simply looking for an applause. It's showcasing something that is happening in front of you and sometimes exaggerating or sometimes showing that juxtaposition in a humorous way. Nanette's special in general was anti-comedy. It wasn't created with any kind of like laughter at all, like with laughter in mind at all. Like Norm, Dave is a childhood hero of mine, and I can speak for hours on amazing work he did. And if you think of stand-up as a complete art form that's more than just the written jokes, he's maybe still the best alive. So this stuff just makes me genuinely sad at this point.
Again, just multiple religious people here. Again, I've made the claim in previous videos, and I'll make it again, that they are not Christians or Muslims or whatever Hasan is supposed to be from his culture. No, they follow a new religion now called womanist wokeism. And they're just blind zealots. Sheep following the crowd blindly with no critical thought as to why they're doing what they do. And no idea as to the cliff that they're going over effectively.
I agree with this 100% wholeheartedly, because he's still so charismatic and such a good storyteller. It's like seeing one of the best baseball players, right? It's like seeing Ohtani try to play like high school softball and whiffing. It's like, how did this happen? Like, what are you doing? It's a very well-written joke in a technical sense, although you see the punchline a mile away, and is delivered flawlessly, but it's about as far from funny as you can get. It's like seeing the modern Rolling Stones. They still play well and everything, but the spark died a long time ago. Obviously, he will never fall off because he's Dave Chappelle. You've got the I liked him when I was a kid bias, bro. Grow up. No, dude. I love comedy. I think comedy is very important.
Again, this is just like bashing, right? It's just attacking the guy. And it's attacking the guy because effectively what Hasan is saying is, infidel, you're against my religion. How could you say such a thing? But instead of saying, you know, it in an angry tone, he's saying it in like a big brother, like I'm disappointed with you, or like a father, like I'm not angry, I'm disappointed, you know. But or it's the equivalent of those like zealot Christians that are like, if you don't do exactly what we do, you're going to hell, and they try to lecture you on like how you should behave in order to not go to hell. That's what Hasan is saying. It's literally the modern 2024 religion equivalent. It's just not called a religion, but everyone behaves as though it is a religion.
I think comedy is great. It's like one of the few forms of art that I consume on a regular basis. I care about it quite a bit. I don't like it when people are constantly chirping about it, especially when it's mostly unfunny people who don't care about humor at all, who don't understand it, and don't want anyone to listen to jokes in general. This is
again, all Hasan is saying is, I wish that my favorite comedian followed my religion instead of his own. I wish that he would do what I wanted him to do. Idiot.
Part of the reason why I regularly yell at my chat whenever they go, what, that joke, I didn't understand it, which means it's bad and wrong and you shouldn't laugh at it either. There's two different types of people who are currently yelling at me in the chat. Some who are saying Dave Chappelle is transphobic and therefore has never crafted a good joke and will never be able to craft a good joke, and all of his jokes are bad, and even the crafting, the structure of a joke or the storytelling aspect of it is also bad, which is not true. From my perspective, this is simply not true. And then there are other chatters who are saying, you didn't laugh at the Dave Chappelle special, you hate comedy and you're policing comedy. No.
Yep, that's what he's doing. He's policing comedy, 100%. What he's saying is, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed that you don't follow my womanist wokist religion. You should, or you're wrong and bad.
Not. I am a believer, a firm believer, that you can make jokes about anything. It's just that it's almost...
No, you don't.
It's like the thing I talk about all the time with respect to accents. Accents of people who have...
You can make jokes about anything you want so long as it follows the sheep crowd religion womanist wokist structure. So long as you do it exactly as we want, you're fine. Disaster.
Been historically colonized. You can do it. You just have to be really good at it. Because if you're not really good at it, then it's going to be very racist. And people are going to yell at you. That's it. And this,
as I said.
Same thing goes for trans people. Like, there is hilarity and humor in the concept of being trans, growing up trans, like the way society perceives you. There is definitely things that are funny about the culture that has been built around it.
As I said, it is only funny if you do it the way that we, the religious zealots, say you must. And if you don't understand what's wrong with that, then you're lost.
make jokes about trans people all the time. The difference is it is not at the expense of trans people, and it's not usually looking at it from the outside, looking in and going, you're weird and gross and you're fake and you're not real and you're doing something I don't like and it's immoral. That's the difference. Someone said slurs. There's a reason why certain people can say certain slurs and it can be totally okay and funny. Here, a great example of this is one of the most banger consistent segments on SNL on the Weekend Update is the Michael Che Colin Jost joke swap. If Colin Jost is writing jokes about black people in and of itself and saying things that he's like saying there and he's written it himself, it would not be perceived in the same way when Michael Che is the one who wrote it, is sitting next to him, and the expectation is that he reads those jokes out loud and maybe even bring like a black civil rights leader or something to sit there and hear him say it. That's where the joke comes from. That's what is a modifier. That's what makes it both permissible and funny. By the way, she wasn't a real civil rights leader, Lamau. I don't know who that person was. I'm just saying that it was presented as a civil rights leader. So that is a great example of like one thing in other contexts, in certain contexts being like weird and not funny, and in other contexts being actually hilarious. Black trans chatter. I grew up on Chappelle and loved his show and early specials on Netflix. Even during BLM, he had much more nuanced perspective when talking about George Floyd and the experiences of black man in America. It's why it sucks so much now that he's taking such a hit, because of that empathy / understanding can't be extended to another marginalized community. Yeah, and I think a lot of people get stuck on the language that we're using when we're criticizing and think it's simply about Dave Chappelle not being empathetic and him being reactionary and hurting people's feelings. That's not it at all. Empathy simply allows you to understand an in-group better so you can craft jokes that are humorous instead of just looking at it from the outside. But as a leftist, you can't find a joke that's at the expense of trans folk funny because you know the harm it causes, everything, even though it might be a good joke. No, that's not it at all. I can not only separate the art from the artist, but I can also separate the art from its impact when looking at it. I even said in his last special, the Beyond Pussy one was a banger. When he talks about trans women saying it's beyond meat, it's pussy too. Like that, in and of itself, standalone, is a banger joke. The problem, however, is that it's sandwiched between him being like, I'm transphobic, by the way. I hate trans people, by the way. TERFs are right, by the way. And then it's like, well, all of a sudden, you got good meat in the sandwich, but the bread is stale and moldy. You can't have that sandwich. It's not, it's just like...
As I said, only when you do it the way I want, only when it's couched the way I want, only when it's stated properly for the mob of people that I agree with and support, only then can you make jokes about it. Again, that is the definition of policing comedy. And again, if the comedians can't say whatever, then what? How far has the Overton window shifted in 2024? That's the question.
You ruin the rest of the sandwich. There's another bit that someone sent me. I don't know which one it was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No, it was the one where he's like, I'm gonna go and do in prison. If I was in California, I'd join the woman's prison, and I would say I'm a woman. And it's just like, again, it's just like, that's Steven Crowder, dude. That's a Steven Crowder bit.
Yep, there it is. Can't say that, according to Hasan. That's awful, terrible. Can't say that. Bad man, bad man. You're against my religion. Alright, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all of the notifications. Drop me a donation like Hunter M, Adrian L, Tom and Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, and Brian. Shout out to you, most recent Patreon subscriber. Thank you. If you want coaching, message me at theheliosblog@gmail.com. That's my email. I'll slot you right in. If you're looking to buy my books, it's at bit.ly/heliosbooks. My Patreon can be found at patreon.com/theheliosblog. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.